Alright, so now what we're starting to get into in math is we're starting to look at our scenarios and we're starting to represent them in multiple ways. So when I say a scenario, I mean what we have right here in the middle, and this is just our word problem. So our scenario is that Manuel has 5 pet turtles. He hopes to add a new turtle to his reptile habitat each month. So starting just from this scenario alone, I have different ways I can show this. I can show this on a table, I can show this on a graph, I can show this as an equation, or I could put it as a verbal description in terms of my x's and y's. And all of these different representations are going to help us in different ways. So what I'm going to start to do first is I'm going to take this scenario and I'm going to come to my table from that. So I'm going to set up a little table here. I'm going to give myself 3 columns. I'm going to give myself an x column, a y column, and my middle is going to be for my process. This is what did I do to get from x to y. Now this is an important column because this is eventually going to take us up here to our equation section. But we'll worry about that in just a second. Before I can really start filling this out as well, I need to know, well, what are my x values and what are my y values? This looks a little bit at independent and dependent that we've been talking about, but we want to say what is the variable that's going to change because of another one. In this one, the total number of turtles is going to change based on how many months have passed, since he's adding more turtles each month. So my months are going to be my x value, and my turtles are going to be my y values right here. So now let's go ahead and start this out. Manuel starts with 5 pet turtles. So when 0 months have passed, he still has his 5 turtles. Now when 1 month passes, he adds 1 new turtle for the month and he's at 6. When 2 months have passed, he adds 1 more new turtle and now he's at 7. So once you have about 2 or 3 rows going down, now you can kind of start looking at the process. So let's take a look at that middle column. I want to know, what did I do to 0 to turn it into 5? Well, I know I didn't multiply by anything because that wouldn't give me any number. 0 times anything would give me 0. So I'm going to test my addition out. 0 plus 5 is going to give me 5. Now before I can say this is a for sure rule, I need to check it with my other values as well. So let's check if 1 plus 5 is 6. And sure enough it is. Then again I'll check 2 plus 5 gives me 7. So this looks like it's going to be a pretty good rule. So how I want to start with to get my equations, I was saying, okay, so I know 0, 1, and 2, that gave me 5, 6, and 7. But what if it was an x? What would I do with that x? Well, whatever value that x was, I would add 5 to it, and that would give me my y value. Now right here is where we see our equations start to take place. So let's take it up to our equation box up here. I knew that I took every x value I had and I added 5 to them, and every time I did that, that gave me my y value. So there is my equation. Now once I have that equation, I can pop over here to my verbal description. So let's take a look at our verbal description. The verbal description is going to put it in terms of x's and y's. So I'm going to say the value of y, because that's my answer of y, is 5 more than, and I want to say more than because I have a good addition problem going on. More than is a good addition term right there, good addition words. 5 more than the value of x. This is going to give me a statement that tells me what's happening. So every time I have a value of y and a value of x, I know that y is going to be 5 more than the value of x. So that's how I can get my verbal description in there. A little bit different than the scenario, but it's still kind of saying the same thing. Now the last one we need to look at is our graph. Okay, for our graph, we really want to come to the table. The reason we want to come to the table is because this information right here is going to tell us what to put on our graph. Now notice at the top I put x's and y's. That was for a reason, because I want to make ordered pairs. We have to remember that our ordered pair is x comma y. And so I can see that on my table. My first ordered pair would be 0, 5. My next one would be 1, 6. Then I have 2, 7. So if you see right here, I have my x values all in the front, and then I have my y values all in my second number. So now I can take these ordered pairs and I can drop them over onto my graph. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first one I'm going to take is I'm going to take 0, 5. Now I need to look at my graph. Looking based on my numbers, I'm going to count by 2's here. This is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, and I'm going to do the same thing going up. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 would be the next line here. So now I want to look at where my first point is. Well, when x is 0, so here's 0 right in the middle, my y is 5. So I'm going to come up right in between 4 and 6, and there's going to be my first point at 0, 5. Now, when x is 1, 1 is halfway between my 0 and 2. My x value is, or my y value is 6. When I have 2, I'm at 7. When I'm at 3, I know I would be at 8. And we can look at this because now I can make predictions. Well, based on this pattern, when I was at 4 months, I would be at 9. When I was at 5 months, I would be at 10. And now we start to see a graph kind of coming through here. We start to see a line that's forming. Now, when we plug these into the calculators and check them, we're going to see a line that goes all the way through. Still true, even though I can't really have negative months, we're talking more theoretical. But this is the box right here, what we just drew. Let me circle it for us. Right here is the data that we have on our table. So this is just a kind of a little look at all the different representations we've seen. We're really going to start looking at them a lot, especially as we get into our proportional and non-proportional relationships, but we have to know how to go in between all of these different representations. So hopefully this helps you out.